So our first guest this morning, we have a very special man here in front of us. He's a composer, producer, musician and music technologist, all the way from Tulla, Mick Kiely. Mick, you're very welcome to Scariff Bay Community Radio.
Thanks, Dara. It's great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Thanks very much now for coming over. So I suppose before we get into your interest in music and the company you set up, just talk to me about your childhood and being raised in Dalkey in County Dublin. What was that like?
It's Dalkey's a very beautiful place, as you probably know, and there's a real sense of community there, and it was a very nice place to have grown up. And sometimes it's only when you're away from it that you really appreciate how blessed I was to grow up in Dalkey. Beautiful seaside, and nice, as I say, lovely community in town, and a lot of friends that I met, my life friends, I guess, that I grew up with there as well. So yeah, and I get back to the old town occasionally for a visit, and it's still there, thankfully. So yeah.
Have you still family there? Is it?
Yeah, my parents are still there.
Oh yes, okay.
But the rest of us have all
moved on.
Flown the nest.
Yes. So I suppose the main reason why you're here is to talk about your interest in music and your music career. So at what stage in your life did you get interested in music?
I think I first discovered that you could create music when my dad. Some of your listeners will remember Green Shield stamps. My dad used to collect Green Shield stamps from the petrol stations, and he saved the stamps up and he got himself an acoustic guitar, and it was in the living room, and I picked this thing up, and I was only, 8 or 10, and I picked it up and I strummed it, and all of a sudden it made this amazing sound. And I'd only ever heard music, but never actually did anything physically with my hands that made music sound, and so that really struck me, and I started to learn a guitar, and I took the guitar to school and got guitar lessons. And then after that, not long after that, my dad bought a piano from a woman around the block, and my uncle, still remember them wheeling the piano around to the house and bringing it into the living room. And my dad used to go to work and lock the piano with his pride and joy, and I knew where the key was, so I'd come home from school and I'd throw the bag in the corner, and the homework wouldn't get done.
Oh, yes.
And I'd tinkle away on the piano, and yeah, I was self-taught, and that was really my. I discovered that I had a real passion for music at that age.
So school didn't really interest you, really? It was just the music.
Yeah. I think I decided what I wanted to do there and then.
Yes.
I was very passionate about it from a very young age.
So where did you study music then?
On the road.
On the road.
I didn't study music in college or anything.
Okay.
When I say on the road, I've been in bands all my life. I left school and got straight into bands and, gigging.
You were lucky, really, so then?
Yeah, I guess I was, yeah. Then I played in various show bands over the years, and that's how I learnt my trade. Yeah,
so because of your talent, you created a video game called Body Count, is it? What's Body Count about?
Well, I didn't create the game. The game was the
music, I mean.
Yeah, I was commissioned to compose music for the score for a first-person shooter video game called Body Count by a UK company who normally do racing car games, but they branched into first-person shooter territory, like along the lines of Call of Duty, that sort of thing, and. So I was commissioned to do the score for that, and that brought me into the studio with live orchestras, recording full orchestra, because video game music, it's like a movie score. It's like it's full on. That was a great experience, and that opened different other doors for me and led me into producing and writing music for. Various libraries then in the US, who that music would then be used in production for TV shows and film as well. So yeah, composing music, that door opened for me at a very young age too.
Like, I'm just wondering, like, you know, when you're creating music for, like, the video games or, you know, TV programs and stuff, how do you actually start from the beginning? Like, you have a sheet in front of you and a pen, but where does it go from there then? How do you grasp it?
Yeah, I think you try and put yourself in. Let's look at a video game like a movie, because it is like a movie. It's a story, and there's a whole scenario playing out. So I guess you got to try and imagine yourself in it. You put yourself in that situation, and you say, okay, well, how does this situation make me feel? And then you reference other, you know, you would reference other movies that you might like, or you get a lot of direction from the directors and the producers of the game as well, or of the film. So they'll say, well, they might say, like, one of the references I got was some sci-fi movies where the director says, look, we really like the score of certain sci-fi movies. So I'd watch those movies and just get a sense of the sound palette, the colours that were used in the music, and then apply those colours to the music that I was writing for the game, so that it was on brief, so that it was in the ballpark, and it did. Because if it sounded completely off, well, then that's, you know.
But would say, like Body Count, that video game, would the company have given you a brief already, or did they just let you start from scratch and think of something yourself?
No, they give me a brief.
Yeah, so you just have some idea as where you're going.
Yeah, and like some Led Zeppelin tracks were part of the brief. They liked that rocky sound. Okay. Kashmir is a particular Led Zeppelin song that they like the sound of. So you just use them as references to create the sound palette.
Okay. So you worked with RTE, and you created the theme tune song for BB Baskin Saturday Live. How did that come about?
Yeah, so that was, interestingly, I remember writing a song and submitting it into the National Song Contest for consideration for the Eurovision. Yeah. And it didn't get through the heats, and that was absolutely fine. But bizarrely, I took part of that song then, and I took the end of the song and submitted it into RTE for a SIG tune for the BB show, because they were looking for a SIG tune, and they loved it, and it fitted perfectly for that. Yeah. I had been working in TV at that point on a show called Good Grief Moncrief with Sean Moncrief, and that was the chat show, and I was in the band, the Glammed Hearts, and we were the house band on the show. So I had made a lot of connections in RTE at the time, so I knew that they were looking for certain shows were looking for music, so I put myself forward and started to pick up some TV shows and music for various shows like Duncan Stewart's About the House.
Yes.
Or Garden Heaven was another show at the time, gardening show, and Antiques Watch, an antique show, obviously. And a number of adverts as well and stuff like that. So that kind of got me into that whole arena.
Can I just ask you, Mick?
Yeah.
I'm fascinated to know, as somebody who was self-taught and everything, does the music come to you as a tune that you would then pick out on the guitar or something like that? It's just the actual making of the music. I'm curious, because do you know the way, like for orchestration and that, I know very little about music, but I know you probably need to have sheet music written or something like that for the orchestra to play, obviously. How do you get from having the inspiration, using your colour palette of sound, to actually making, or I suppose representing the music so that someone else can play it then?
Yeah, that's a great question. So usually, I can hear a piece of music in my head, and then it's a matter of getting that music from my head into some format where it can be heard. And usually it's through a home recording. So I have a home recording studio, and I play various instruments, and I put the music together and create it that way. And then through MIDI notation, which is an electronic way of collecting the note values of music that's played into digital recording, for example, that MIDI notation then is taken and given to is then transcribed into notation by and then that notation is then given to the librarian, for the orchestral librarian, and then distributed. All the parts are distributed amongst the players for the recording session. But the notation is then done by an orchestrator,
Sure.
who basically takes the parts that for the various parts that I would write for all the first, second violins, violas, also all the string sections, brass sections, percussion. So where I would write the arrangement and all that, it would be done in a MIDI format and then transcribed later into notation.
It's fascinating, isn't it, the way
Yeah.
technology has impacted the music and the making
Absolutely.
of music.
Yeah, yeah. It really has come such a long way, even in the last 10 or 15 years. It's just made huge leaps.
So tell me about, we mentioned it there, Exhale. You created this company. Tell us what is it all about?
Yes, so Exhale is a company based in the US now. There's still offices here in Ireland, in Dublin. And my wife and I founded the company back in 2013, after I had invented a method of creating music in real time. So, but not with the use of AI, artificial intelligence as such, but I've developed a platform and algorithms that could essentially assemble recorded parts. So let's say there's musicians all over the world,
Yes,
and they
yes.
play various instruments in various styles. They would literally record themselves playing, and they would send those recordings to Excel. Excel would then meta tag all those performances. So now we have hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of different performances that are all just sitting in the cloud as different instruments. Then, say, then in the US, a production company could be making a show for TV, let's call it a documentary show, and they need specific music. So there was a crime series that we did over the last few years for HBO. So in this crime series, then they would give a description on the platform of the kind of music they needed for the show, and then very quickly our platform would take your guitar, somebody's piano from Australia, somebody's bass from the UK. It would just pull these different musical parts and instrument parts from different musicians who never met or never even referenced this piece of music in the first place. But the technology would be able to assemble their works together in real time to create a brand new piece of music that fitted for the production. Now that piece becomes then a brand new copyright. It's registered with the collection societies. In Ireland we have IMRO. In the US they have the ASCAP, BMI, and various other collection societies. So the royalties that are generated in revenue from that show being broadcast, not just in the US but globally, can be sometimes quite significant money. And then those royalties are evenly distributed amongst the musicians who created the parts that the technology assembled this brand new piece of music in.
And
So that's the elevator pitch explanation of what the technology did.
Yeah. And you're located in is it Los Angeles?
There's offices for Exhale in Dublin, in Stockholm, in Boston, New York, and Los Angeles.
Very good. So there's a good few, a lot of people working on the company.
The company has grown somewhat since I started in
yes,
2013.
Yes. So as well as the BB Baskin Saturday Live Show, you worked on the theme tune for About the House by Duncan Stewart as well. Now I know you sent me a link on there, but unfortunately we can't get it up here now, so we can't play the theme tune. But you also worked on the TV hit show Friends in America.
No, I didn't work on the show.
Or the music, I should say.
One of the stars from the show. She's a singer-songwriter, Maggie Wheeler. She plays Janice in Friends, and I write her music for her songs, and we're producing an album that goes on release next year. So
Okay.
I worked on a number of TV shows, but not on Friends.
Wait, apologies, yeah. So like that, like Maggie Wheeler, she's very famous. So have you come across many famous people?
Well, I guess it's kind of goes with the territory
It has,
a little
yeah,
bit.
yeah,
You know, you bump
yeah.
into a few people that you may
Yeah.
recognise from time
Yeah.
to time.
Mick, you're a very modest man.
But is it a very difficult career path to go into once you leave your education, because you're not guaranteed a job straight away?
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's very competitive. A lot of music colleges, around the world, a lot of students, a lot of ambitious students. I think it's like anything in life. If you've got to be committed, and you've got to have a passion for it, and really be committed. You got to think outside the box a little bit too. I mean, if you got to be jumping up or walking the opposite direction in a crowd to get noticed. If you're just following what everyone else is doing, well, then it's very hard to get noticed. So you really do have to come at whatever it is that you're doing. Come at it from a different perspective. Do something that nobody else is doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, you've got to really work.
Yeah.
at
So
it.
for younger, students that are at the leaving cert now, and they have an interest in music, and they want to go down your career path, but don't know what it's about, what would you recommend or say to them about it?
I'd say run two paths. I mean, the educational path is obviously important. A lot of technology used in the now in the music industry that wasn't being used back in the day for me. So you do have to acquire knowledge, that kind of knowledge how to use those technologies and stuff, and so education and colleges can be very good for that. But you really should be running your own path of creative path and putting yourself out there into creating opportunities, because it is the day you finish in college and walk out the door. It's not like you're walking into a job in your chosen path.
Yes.
You're starting. You're really just starting out then. And you're starting with everybody else that has walked out that door that very same day, and those that have gone before you and that will come after you. So, yeah, you've got to be quite creative and committed.
Yeah. Mick, are there any third level colleges or courses that come to mind that you'd recommend for somebody, let's say, doing their leaving cert now, that might be interested in following a career in music, or let's say the sound technology, whatever,
Yeah, I guess that sometimes it's hard to know exactly where you fit. So you might fit on the sound part, production part, more than on the creative playing part or whatever. So you should take some time to explore that. And the places to explore that there are some wonderful courses in Pulse College in Dublin at Windmill Lane Studios. There's a wonderful course there, and at Griffith College as well. There's a few courses there. And they teach various aspects of of the music industry, including production and including composition as well. Yeah.
So and actually, speaking of education, you've lectured in Trinity and in California and Nashville as well. Am I right?
I have, yeah,
Yes.
I have, and I designed the video game composing course that's taught at Griffith College, and I have also lectured at Pulse College at Windmill Lane as well, which is why I recommend those colleges. They're both fantastic. Yeah.
And I suppose on today's note, you're living in Tulla.
I am.
Yeah. So what was it like coming from urban area to the countryside in Tulla?
It's not LA.
No, it's definitely not. It's definitely not.
Weather-wise, everywhere.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
But it's so. My wife and I, we really love it. We really did end up there accidentally. We had no plans to move to Tulla.
Okay.
During the lockdown, we came back to Ireland, and as soon as they opened up the travel from the counties, we just wanted to get out of Dublin at the time, and we decided to move to the west. We knew a fair amount of people in Clare, and we were renting a couple of properties, and we accidentally found the place where we were. It was on the market, and we made an offer and bought it, and we have 2 dogs there, and
Yes.
we decided this is a much
This is the place to be.
place to be.
Place to be. Yes.
A lot more peaceful than
Yes.
the streets of Los Angeles, like in Hollywood, I can tell you.
So you're not moving anytime soon.
No, no.
So come here, just before we let you go, going back to the music again. What are your plans for the future? What are you doing now with the music?
So I want to get back into the writing. Over the last 8 years, I've very much been involved in running a technology company. That company has now outgrown me. It's under new management, which gives me an opportunity to sit back now and get back to what it is I love to do most, and that is be creative in the music space. So I intend to get back writing music, and I'll see what projects come up. I'm just really looking forward to doing what I love to do best.
Well, listen, it was great talking to you today. Thank you so much
you,
for
Darren.
coming over, and we'll definitely have to have you back again. It was very interesting.
Sure.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
for sure. We're honoured to have somebody of your
Thank you guys.
ability.
It's been a pleasure.
Thanks, Mick. Thanks, Mick.
Thanks for having me.